"We have a strict dress code policy, ma'am." Those 7 words stopped me in my tracks as I stood at the entrance of Savour, the restaurant I had poured my heart, soul, and $2.3 million into over the past 3 years. The host, a young white man with perfectly styled hair, gave my outfit a dismissive once-over. I glanced down at my casual black jeans, sneakers, and simple white blouse. Nothing unprofessional, just comfortable clothes after a long day of meetings. "I understand that," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm here to check on operations." His smile tightened. "I'm sorry, but I can't make exceptions. Perhaps you could come back tomorrow in appropriate attire?" The way he emphasized appropriate made my skin prickle. Behind him, I could see empty tables despite the reservations-only sign prominently displayed. 2 white couples walked in behind me, the men wearing jeans nearly identical to mine. And the host immediately brightened. "Your table is ready, Mr. and Mrs. Davidson. Right this way." They breezed past me without a second glance. My fingers instinctively reached for the business cards in my pocket, the ones with Maya Johnson, CEO, Savour Restaurant Group, printed in elegant gold foil. But something made me pause. 3 years building this business, 60-hour weeks, countless sacrifices, and now being treated like an unwelcome stranger at my own establishment. Instead of revealing my identity, I stepped back. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll stay right here and observe for a while." Confusion flickered across his face before he shrugged and turned away. What would happen in the next 40 minutes would shake my restaurant to its core and force me to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you have to be denied entry to your own success to see what's really happening inside. Have you ever been judged before someone knew your name? Tell me in the comments, because what you're about to witness is a masterclass in consequences. I didn't always own restaurants. 5 years ago, I was executive chef at Bordeaux, working 14-hour days under fluorescent lights and someone else's name. Culinary school. 10 years of kitchen work and countless burns on my arms had earned me that position, but never the recognition that matched my talent. "Black women don't sell fine dining," the owner told me when I pitched my French-African fusion concept. "Stick to what works." That night, I emptied my savings account and wrote a business plan. 6 loan rejections later, I found an investor who saw past my skin color to the vision beneath. Savour opened 18 months later in downtown Atlanta, with lines around the block from day one. The critics were skeptical at first. "Ambitious but misguided," one wrote. Then they tasted my grandmother's jollof rice paired with a delicate French reduction. We earned our first Michelin star within a year. The second location followed 6 months later, then the third. Now, Savour Restaurant Group includes 5 locations across the Southeast. Our newest branch in Charlotte had opened just 3 weeks ago. This was my first visit since the soft opening. The management team was hand-picked and trained at our flagship location, but the serving staff had been hired locally. My policy was to let each restaurant develop its own personality, with general managers handling day-to-day operations while I focused on expansion. My face appeared in industry magazines and local business features, but I deliberately kept a low profile with customers and staff. I wanted authentic experiences when I visited, not performances put on for the boss. My executive team understood this approach. I preferred to observe operations as they actually functioned, rather than seeing a sanitized version prepared for my visits. This philosophy had served me well across 4 locations, until tonight. As I stood in the entryway of my Charlotte restaurant, watching the host who had just denied me entrance greet other guests with practiced charm, I felt a complex wave of emotions. Anger at the obvious discrimination, curiosity about what else might be happening when management wasn't looking, and determination to address whatever systemic issues had taken root. Everything I'd built was at stake. Not just the money or the accolades, but the promise I'd made when I named this place after the French word for flavor, that everyone would be welcomed to savor the experience, regardless of who they were. Now I needed to know, was this an isolated incident or the symptom of something deeper? I stepped to the side of the entrance, taking a seat on one of the waiting area benches. The host, his name tag reads Tyler, keeps glancing in my direction with visible discomfort. His eyes dart to my sneakers, then away quickly when I meet his gaze. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Marcus, my operations director. How's Charlotte looking? I type back, educational. Then silence my phone. A black couple approaches the entrance. They're dressed elegantly, he in a tailored suit, she in a cocktail dress. Tyler greets them with the same practiced smile he offered the white couples. Do you have a reservation? He asks. Yes, under Williams, the man replies. Tyler scans his tablet. I'm not seeing anything under that name. Are you sure it was for tonight? The man frowns. Positive. I made it 3 weeks ago. Well, we're fully booked. Perhaps there was a miscommunication? I clench my jaw, watching the couple's expressions fall. The restaurant is half empty. I can see at least 8 vacant tables from where I'm sitting. Could you check again? Maybe under Darius? The woman asks. Tyler makes a show of scrolling through his tablet. Nothing under Williams or Darius. Sorry. As they turn to leave, Tyler immediately seats a white family who walks in without a reservation. We'll squeeze you in, he says with a wink. My heartbeat pounds in my ears. This isn't an accident. This isn't a misunderstanding about dress codes or reservations. This is systematic exclusion happening under my company's name. I consider walking straight to the host stand, revealing my identity, and ending this immediately. The business card feels heavy in my pocket. One flash of it would transform this entire dynamic. But would it solve the problem? Or just hide it? A memory surfaces. My grandmother teaching me to cook, her hands guiding mine through the motions of kneading dough. When something's not rising right, she'd say, you don't just look at the top. You need to understand what's happening beneath the surface. I decide to go deeper. I pull out my phone and text Marcus again. Who's the manager on duty tonight? Heather Coleman. He responds immediately. Is she aware I might visit? No. Following your protocol. Complete surprise. Good. I step outside and open the Savour Reservations app. Within seconds, I've booked a table for one under the name Michelle Jones in 30 minutes. Then I walk 2 blocks to a nearby boutique and purchase a simple black dress and heels, changing in their fitting room. When I return to Savour, I'm no longer Maya Johnson, CEO. I'm just another customer seeking a table, one who looks like the demographic they're apparently trying to keep out. Let's see how deep this problem goes. Michelle Jones, your table is ready. Tyler's entire demeanor had shifted. The same host who dismissed me earlier now offered a courteous smile to my transformed appearance. The black dress and heels had apparently met his arbitrary standards. As he led me to my table, I noticed it was positioned near the kitchen, a section typically reserved for guests the staff hoped wouldn't linger. Interesting. Your server will be with you shortly, he said, placing a menu before me. 20 minutes passed before anyone approached my table. Around me, white patrons received immediate attention, warm bread, water refills. I sat with an empty place setting, invisible. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, and began documenting. Host denies entry based on selective dress code enforcement. Reservation discrimination against black couple, seating discrimination, kitchen adjacent. Service delays for black patrons. When my server finally arrived, her greeting was curt. Are you ready to order? No introduction, no specials, no wine recommendations. I'd like to hear about your specials, I said. They're listed at the bottom of the menu, she replied, pointing impatiently. 2 tables over, the same server was describing each special in loving detail to an older white couple, suggesting wine pairings and answering questions with enthusiasm. My food arrived lukewarm. The plating, which I had personally designed as part of our brand standards, was haphazard. The signature sauce, drizzled rather than carefully placed in 3 precise dots as our training specified. At the bar, I noticed the bartender chatting warmly with white patrons while serving black customers with minimal interaction. A pattern was emerging across every customer touchpoint. When my server dropped off the check without asking about dessert or coffee, I requested to speak with the manager. Is there a problem? She asked defensively. I'd just like to discuss my experience, I replied. She returned with a blonde woman in her 30s. I'm Heather Coleman, the manager. How can I help? The name landed like a stone. My head of operations in Charlotte, the person ultimately responsible for every staff member's behavior. The moment had arrived. I placed my business card on the table. Heather, I believe we need to have a conversation about what's happening in my restaurant. Heather's eyes darted from my face to the business card, processing the gold-embossed letters. Her complexion shifted from confident pink to ashen gray in seconds. "Miss Johnson," she stammered, recognition flooding her features. We had no idea you were." "Visiting?" I finished for her. "Clearly." The server who had neglected my table hovered nearby, confusion etched across her face until Heather's panicked expression registered. She whispered something to another server, and within moments, a wave of awareness rippled through the staff. Heads turned. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Tyler, who had been seating another group, froze when a busboy urgently whispered in his ear. He looked toward my table, horror washing over his face as our eyes met. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in your office," I suggested, my voice calm but firm. Heather nodded rapidly. "Of course, right away." As we walked through the dining room, the atmosphere transformed. Staff members who had barely acknowledged my existence now stood at attention. The kitchen door swung open as the head chef peered out, having received word of my presence. Inside the office, my office, technically, Heather fumbled with the chairs. "Miss Johnson, I cannot express how mortified I am. Had we known you were coming." "That's precisely the point, Heather. I shouldn't need to announce myself to ensure Black patrons receive equal treatment in my restaurant." I placed my phone on the desk, open to my notes. Denial of entry based on selectively enforced dress codes, fabricated claims about non-existent reservations, substandard service, cold food, all apparently correlated with the customer's skin color. The door opened as Tyler entered, perspiration beading on his forehead. "Miss Johnson, I'm so sorry about earlier. If I had recognized you..." "That's exactly the problem." I cut him off. "Your behavior shouldn't change based on who you think someone is. The Black couple you turned away? What if he had been a food critic? What if they were potential investors?" Tyler's gaze dropped to the floor. "But even asking those questions misses the point," I continued. "They deserved respect because they're human beings who wanted to enjoy a meal at a restaurant that explicitly markets itself as welcoming to all." Heather attempted damage control. "We'll fix this immediately." "Tyler, you're..." I raised my hand. "This isn't about firing one host, Heather. This is systemic. I sat in that dining room for over an hour watching a pattern of discrimination unfold across multiple staff members. The question is, what kind of culture have you been fostering here?" The power shift was palpable. 2 hours ago, they had deemed me unworthy of entry. Now they hung on my every word, their jobs and reputations suspended in the balance of my judgment. "Here's what happens next," I said, closing my notes app. "I'm staying in Charlotte for the week. We're closing tomorrow for an emergency staff meeting. Every employee will attend, no exceptions." Their faces reflected the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about one bad night of service. This was about the soul of everything I had built. The next morning, I stood before the entire Charlotte staff in our closed restaurant. 60 pairs of eyes watched me nervously as I placed a chair in the center of the dining room and sat down. "Yesterday, I was denied entry to my own restaurant," I began. "But this meeting isn't about punishment. It's about honesty and growth." I shared what I had witnessed, the selective enforcement of policies, the disparate treatment, the subtle ways certain customers were made to feel unwelcome. No names were mentioned, but understanding dawned on many faces. I built Savor because I believe food brings people together. When we exclude, we fail our most basic mission. Over the next 4 hours, we transformed the dining room into a workshop space. Staff members shared their perspectives. Some admitted to unconscious biases. Others revealed they had noticed the patterns but feared speaking up. A few cried. Heather acknowledged her failure to monitor these dynamics. "I focused on the numbers, not the experience," she admitted. By afternoon, we had developed a concrete action plan. First, immediate changes to operational protocols, new reservation systems with accountability trails, regular service audits using diverse mystery diners, rotating table assignments to prevent selective section placements. Second, structural adjustments. I appointed Darius Williams, the man who had been denied his reservation, as our new community relations director after learning he was a respected local business leader. His first task, building bridges with Charlotte's diverse communities. Third, ongoing education. Monthly diversity workshops became mandatory. Staff reviews, would now include equity metrics alongside performance measures. Promotion paths were rewritten to create advancement opportunities for all team members. Most importantly, we established anonymous reporting channels for both staff and customers to flag concerns without fear of retaliation. This isn't just about Severe Charlotte, I explained as we concluded. These changes will roll out across all locations. What happened here exposed blind spots throughout our organization. 3 months later, our Charlotte location showed the highest customer satisfaction improvement in company history. Staff retention increased, revenue climbed 23%. The lessons extended beyond our walls. I shared our experience, anonymizing details, with other restaurant groups. My keynote at the National Restaurant Association conference, Hidden Barriers, Recognizing Exclusion in Hospitality, prompted industry-wide conversations. The transformation wasn't perfect or immediate. Some staff members chose to leave. Occasional incidents still required addressing. But with each challenge, our response grew more effective, our community stronger. What began as a painful rejection became the catalyst for meaningful change. By being denied entry to my own establishment, I gained the clarity to build something more inclusive than I had originally envisioned. A restaurant where everyone truly belonged. 1 year has passed since that night in Charlotte. Sometimes I still think about how easily things could have gone differently. If I'd flashed my business card immediately, the staff would have scrambled to please me, while continuing the same behaviors when I wasn't watching. Instead, that difficult evening forced me to confront uncomfortable truths. Ownership isn't just about having your name on legal documents. True ownership means ensuring your vision permeates every aspect of your business, especially when you're not in the room. The restaurant industry isn't unique in its challenges with bias. In boardrooms, retail spaces, and professional settings across America, people face judgment based on appearance before they can demonstrate their value. The difference is in how we respond when these patterns emerge. For business leaders, your company culture isn't defined by your mission statement, but by how your most vulnerable customer is treated by your least supervised employee. For consumers, your spending power can transform industries. Support businesses that demonstrate genuine commitment to inclusion, not just diversity marketing campaigns. For everyone navigating spaces where you feel unwelcome, document your experiences. Share your stories. Connect with allies. The path to change begins with making the invisible visible. Severe now hosts monthly community dinners where guests from different backgrounds share meals and conversations. Our executive team reflects the diversity of the cities we serve. Our training programs have been adopted by restaurant groups nationwide. Most meaningful to me personally. Last month, a young Black culinary student approached me after touring our kitchen. "Seeing you own this place makes me believe I can do it too," she said. That's the real power of ownership, expanding what others believe is possible. Have you experienced or witnessed bias in restaurants or other businesses? How did you respond? What changes would you like to see in the hospitality industry? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to Living Tales for more narratives that reveal the continuing journey toward equality in America. Together, we can transform exclusion into belonging, one story, one business, and one community at a time.